What's up, Patreon? So first of all, I want to apologize. We haven't done a video in quite a while. Again, my fault. Obviously, being in law enforcement, as of right now, it's more than a challenge. In addition to having, obviously, a full-time training academy and all the stuff that goes along with being a father and a husband. So I fell a little behind. My bad. But we're going to get back on track, so hang with me. And again, I apologize. I'm going to do a two-part series right now on ammunition that will help clear up a lot of things, okay? So let's just dive right into this. This isn't, although we're going to use 9mm right now, it's not necessarily specific to 9mm, but I want to kind of clarify some things. These are questions that come up a lot in our classes and whatnot, and so let's just kind of show you in writing, okay? So 9mm is unique in the sense that as far as the U.S. is concerned, we've got obviously 9mm, 9x19, 9 Luger, and 9 Para or Parabellum. Okay, and then we're going to throw this 9 Mac down here at the bottom, which we'll get to in a second, because we're going to explain a little bit of this. This first part is going to be an explanation of what this all means and some numbers. And the next part's going to be, the second part will be about grains, okay? So if that's a question, don't worry, it's coming. So what's unique about this is there's 4 really kind of different designations that you're going to find a lot. And some manufacturers prefer some designations over others, and there may be some legal ramifications and whatnot. I'm not really going to get into that. That's an R, by the way. So let's begin. You have 9mm, 9x19, 9 Luger, 9 Para. So almost 99.9% of the time, every single 9mm handgun will say 9mm. Almost every Glock will say 9x19. Almost every SIG will say 9 Para. Almost a good percentage of Rugers will say 9 Luger, etc., etc. And we can continue to go down this rabbit hole. Luger, by the way, that's the guy who invented the round. So that was, again, the inventor. Parabellum, which is, I believe, prepare for war in Latin, first came around in about 1902. Where that became synonymous with 9mm. Again, not going to go down this long history ride. I just want you to kind of understand this. This is all U.S. 9mm. So, regardless of what your particular gun or what particular box you have, any of these 4 are 100% completely, I don't even want to say interchangeable, because they're literally identical. It's just a designation used for them, okay? And then, of course, we got 9 Mac here at the bottom. So, first of all, what we really want to understand, give myself some room here, what does this mean? What does 9mm really refer to? So, the number refers to the diameter of the projectile. So, if you were to fire a 9mm pistol, a U.S. pistol, and catch that round in the air and look at it and put it under calipers, it would measure 9mm in diameter, that projectile. Again, I don't want that to get confused with the cartridge. This is the projectile, the actual bullet, okay? So the projectile is 9mm in diameter. Now, there are a lot of different cartridges, okay, that share the same diameter. By no means, absolutely not, are they interchangeable. And so I left Mac down here. 9 Mac refers to Makarov, and that is a Russian 9mm round. I'm not going to get all the history when it came around. Just know that it's different. It's also known by 9x18. Okay? It is, in fact, again, if I were to catch that bullet in the air and show it to you, it would be, in fact, 9mm in diameter. Although these two share the same diameter bullet, they are not, I repeat, not interchangeable. Okay? They are not. So let's talk about what the numbers really mean. Okay? So when we look at this as kind of our full expression here, 9x19, what that means is the 9mm, again, is the diameter, but the second number has a value. It's not just arbitrarily picked out. What that means is the length of the case. So that would be 19mm. Okay, so if I were to take a 9 Makarov, it would be 9x18, so it would be shorter. Overall, if I put the 2 cartridges in your hand, this would be a shorter casing. So what that means is if you look at a cartridge, you have the bullet in there, the powder, the casing, And the primer, that case, the cup, all right, that holds all that powder is shorter and therefore has less. So guns work based on pressure and timing, and the timing is determined by the pressure. And so by having more powder in there, we have more pressure. And the way the gun is set up with the springs and so forth has to be calibrated to be able to handle that. So let's look at a few more configurations. So that was handguns, and we can talk about that in a minute. The important thing to understand is that there's two measurements. There is the metric system and there is caliber, okay? And all they simply are mathematical expressions. No different than if you went into your garage and you had the imperial system and the metric system. Identical. So for example, 7.62 by 51, okay? And 7.62 by 39, okay? These two look very similar, and they are. They're both very common. This is a U.S. battle rifle, and this is an AK-47. Now, I could almost put an equal sign because they're pretty much identical. The only really difference is what system are we using to measure these cartridges. So 7.62 is just like saying 9mm. The diameter of that projectile is 7.62 millimeters, or 0.3 of an inch, or 0.308. Okay? It's just that this is in inches and this is the metric system. Once again, as I said, and this kind of illustrates that, these second numbers, they mean something, and again, that is the length of the case. So if I gave you an AK-47 round and we call it a 7.62 NATO or 7.62 51, whatever the case is, or 308, you could clearly see the difference. All right, and that's how that works. That's how the math works. And we can play this game all day long. Okay, we can convert anything. For example, a 9mm. Okay, if you want to do the equation, is 3.55 caliber. Okay, 355 caliber. Keep in mind, we're only talking about the diameter of the projectile. This is a great example. For those of you who are familiar with a 357 Magnum, look at that. 355 and 357, I mean, it's indistinguishable by the human eye. You couldn't really tell the difference. But if you were to look at a 357 Magnum and a 9mm, it would be unbelievably clear. They're not even close. This is significantly larger. Okay? So that's really the deal. Another common one that we all know about is 5.56 by 45. Okay, and of course we know that as the 223. Now there's some people that will argue there is a technical internal neck difference. I'm not going to get into that. It's a whole other animal. But essentially this is just the metric, and this is the inches measurement of that. Okay, so when you guys are talking about ammunition or cartridges or whatnot, understand that that's all it is a numeric measurement of that caliber. And because a particular gun uses a similar or exactly the same diameter projectile, they are by no means interchangeable. One real quick example of that, I probably said this before, I had to ban on one of the ranges I worked with, is having folks come out with a 300 blackout. So just write this real quick. 300 blackout and 5.56 or 223, okay? Because the big advantage between these two is that they are both an AR platform. They look almost identical. Actually, they look identical. The only and in fact, the magazines both fit both rounds. The issue is that this is a 30 caliber barrel. Okay, the hole is 0.3, and this is a 22 caliber barrel. And of course, inevitably, at some point, unfortunately, someone would pick up the identical magazine, excuse me, with a 30 caliber round in it, and they would put it in their 22 caliber barrel gun, right? And they'd press the trigger. And unfortunately, it would go bang, except it would explode because it can't force that bullet down the barrel, and it would blow out the magazine, and people got hurt quite a bit. So just kind of an example of how these two are not interchangeable and how the caliber system works. So hopefully that was a good explanation for you guys. Part 2, we're going to talk about grains, because that's also very confusing. So again, guys, thanks for being our Patreons. We love you guys. We need you guys. We're going to be producing a ton of content for you guys, so stay with us.